This is Marc with Alter Ego Comics, and some weeks in comics there's just so much cool stuff to talk about in our weekly review show that we don't have time to get to some of the hidden gems that may have come out that week. Maybe some things where we only have one or two copies in stock. So I wanted to take a minute or two and highlight a few of those for you. And we may be doing this from time to time, just again to call attention to what I would refer to as definitely hidden gems or things that might fly under your radar. First up is a book that came out last week, and it is a reprint of one of the original Marvel graphic novels. Now, back in the early 80s, when graphic novels were something new and untried at the big publishers, they were published, at least from Marvel, in kind of this oversized format, kind of thin books that maybe were 100 pages or 120 pages, and it was straight to graphic novel material. And one of those was called Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom, Triumph and Torment. This is written by Roger Stern with artwork by Mike Mignola, who is famous for his Hellboy creator and the Hellboy universe. And this is really one that you want to check out if you're a fan of either Doctor Strange or Doctor Doom or both, because there isn't a lot of material featuring these two characters solo or teaming up together. It is really just an amazing graphic novel to check out, an amazing story. It holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts that read it originally back in the early 1980s. So you've got Roger Stern, who was arguably he was at the top of his game during this time period, writing Amazing Spider-Man. He had written pretty much every Marvel title, and he took on these characters of Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom. And the artwork by Mignola is just outstanding. You know, if you're a fan of his Hellboy work, you can get a sneak peek into some earlier work by Mignola. And as I said, there really isn't a lot of Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom material out there. So this one, I think people have seen it on the racks over the last week and just kind of walked by it, not really knowing what it was, not picking it up and thumbing through it. And I think that's a mistake. I think if you're a fan of either of those characters, if you're a fan of Roger Stern or Mike Mignola, you definitely want to check out Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom, Triumph, and Torment. Next up is another Marvel piece, and it's Avengers Assemble. Science Bros is the name of the storyline, and this is the first story arc by Kelly Sue DeConnick with artwork by Pete Woods, and it's just really, really fun. If you go back and check the archives of the Alter Ego Comics TV episodes, you'll see that both Josh and I were crazy about this storyline when it hit. It was hot on the heels of the Avengers movie after it came out, and it really depicted the characters much like we saw them in the film, rather than the way they are in the Marvel Universe. And there are subtle differences, as those of you that read comics and go to movies may discover. But DeConnick really brings a breath of fresh air to writing the Avengers. At the time, Brian Michael Bendis was writing the titles, and he had been on them for so long that it was time for him to move on. And then we got Jonathan Hickman on it, and it's a very dark place, the Avengers universe right now. And Kelly Sue DeConnick's writing is very fun. It's very upbeat. We see a great relationship between Bruce Banner and Tony Stark in this, and hence the name Science Bros, kind of spilling out of the Avengers movie where you had that bromance going on between Tony and Bruce. It's just a really fun story, and if you're a fan of the Avengers movie and you're wondering what to pick up that might be similar, the Avengers Assemble Science Bros Collected Edition is definitely one you want to check out. The last thing I want to bring to your attention this week is a graphic novel published by Top Shelf called March, and this is written by Congressman John Lewis from Georgia. It's co-written by one of his aides, Andrew Aiden, with artwork by Nate Powell. Nate Powell has done a lot of great creator-owned work. He did Cowboy over at Archaea, among other things. And this is the story of Congressman Lewis's life, from the son of farmers, growing up in the segregated South, to basically being in at the ground floor of the civil rights movement and participating in the March on Washington in 1963. Actually, he's the last surviving speaker, someone who spoke that day of the March on Washington. And since we're celebrating the 50th anniversary this year of, I should say this week, of that historic march, it's a very timely graphic novel. And it's for fans of history. It's for those that may not be aware of things that happened during that time period, and those that are, and then want to see it through the eyes of someone who lived through it. It's a very important work. It's timely. It's, as I said, history. It also gives us an example, a very strong example of comic books telling stories that are not superhero, that are not fictional but factual. And a lot of times people think of comics only as superhero books, but really it's a great format, a great medium for people to tell their stories, regardless of whether they're superhero related or not. But in this case, it's a very strong factual piece that I think will open a lot of people's eyes to the way things were 50 short years ago in this country. It's also a great opportunity to give to kids, to teachers. Can be used in a lot of different ways, and just be read and I guess enjoyed and processed on its own as a really great graphic novel. It's the first of a trilogy that is going to chronicle all of Congressman Lewis's life, and this guy's led a pretty amazing life. I had the chance to read it over the weekend and really wanted to dive into volume 2 when I finished the first volume, but it's not out yet. I'm not sure when it's coming out, but it is the first of 3 parts. So you should definitely check out March. It's one I think that a lot of people may be overlooking because it's not a Marvel book, it's not a DC book. It's a very strong, as I said, autobiographical story of someone who grew up in the segregated South and was very instrumental in the civil rights movement. So that's it for this time. Those are 3 books that I think deserve a second look from you in your comic book store, and if that's us, hopefully you'll pick it up off the racks, flip through these different things, and maybe go home with them. We'll be back next time with any hidden gems that we think you should see. Thanks for watching.